Okay, hello, welcome back. The Queen is off to Balmoral. That's the big news. That obviously means that summer's nearly upon us. It's July.
You say that's the big news. We've had quite a...
There is other news. That's the big seasonal news. In a week where there's been a secret royal wedding, an actual knighthood, the appearance of the Duke of Edinburgh. I mean, it's, you know...
big week.
Yeah, big week, actually. Yeah, yet again, we say it every week. But anyway, welcome back to the Royal Rota. You can continue to subscribe to this. If you are watching on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button. You also get it, as you well know by now, I'm sure, on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and whatever other podcast platform you choose to listen to us on. Welcome. Hello.
Hello for another week.
Another week. And what a week it's been. So this time last week we were in Windsor.
Yes, and we were back in Windsor yesterday.
We were back in Windsor yesterday.
Where there has been a lot going on in Windsor this week.
And there was. As you will know, if you watched last week's podcast or listened to last week's podcast, you'll know that we were surprised ourselves by the the sudden announcement of a royal wedding. Actually, we found out since, haven't we, that Buckingham Palace had intended on not telling us anything about that wedding until the Saturday, until the day afterwards. But obviously it leaked out. Some people saw some photographers milling around, and they saw Prince Andrew and the Queen.
The Queen and Duke of Edinburgh driving in.
Yes. So let's run through the week. Robinson's Royal Rundown will be another spectacularly long edition this week, I'm sure.
I'll try and keep it brief.
Old and young is in it this week, and the middle.
Oh, I thought you were talking about No. Okay.
Carry on.
So as you say, Princess Beatrice married Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi in a secret wedding ceremony last Friday. There was a rare engagement for the Duke of Edinburgh. We don't often get to see him on public engagements anymore, but he came out to transfer his role as Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles to his daughter-in-law, the Duchess of Cornwall. Prince George turned 7, and we were treated to some new photographs of him taken by Mum, the Duchess of Cambridge. We found out about the summer plans for the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, and they are leaving Windsor for the first time since March. There was a complaint this week from the group Republic to the Charity Commission about the Royal Foundation and Sussex Royal, and the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall, as I should call them,
otherwise known as the Prince of Wales.
The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall had their annual Cornwall and Devon week.
So where to begin? Shall we begin with this noise, this sound? Have a listen. So they were buglers from the Rifles Regiment, a British Army regiment who has had the Duke of Edinburgh as its Colonel-in-Chief, along with its previous regiments, for how long?
Since 1953, so 67 years.
67 years.
Awfully long time.
And the Duke of Edinburgh yesterday, which is why we were in Windsor, came out of retirement in order to retire another of his military ceremonial titles.
Yeah, he felt very strongly he wanted to do this one in person, and so we had 2 ceremonies. There was one at Windsor Castle where we saw the Duke of Edinburgh come out, and he handed over his role to the Duchess of Cornwall, who was 85 miles away at Highgrove, and she was welcomed in as the new Colonel-in-Chief.
I thought social distancing meant you only had to be like a metre apart or 2 metres apart, but 85 miles is quite some social distancing, so they obviously weren't in the same place, and nor were they going to be. But let's talk about what happened in Windsor first then. I mean, the Duke of Edinburgh, I suppose, what's everyone's question when they see the Duke of Edinburgh? How's he looking? Oh, he looks good for 99. Did he manage the steps? All those questions.
I mean...
And yes is the answer.
Yeah, I thought, for 99, by anyone's standards, he looked really remarkable. And he came out, stood at the top of the steps, and we all thought that might be it. But no, he wanted to come down the steps and meet the buglers that had taken part in the ceremony. And we found out he still hasn't lost his famous sense of humour. No,
and see, when he first came out to the steps, and I saw some pictures on social media, because unlike with Captain Tom, we were excluded from the quadrangle yesterday, but we were just outside the castle walls. I thought that was it. Come out, stand by the steps, say hello, and then go back in. And yet, no, he came down the steps, unaided, we should point out.
This is someone that's had a hip replacement not all that many years ago.
Indeed.
I mean, incredible. He looked very well, which was lovely to see.
Yeah, and given that Captain Tom, I mean, as sprightly as he was last week, he uses his walking support frame to access around. No sign of any of that with the Duke of Edinburgh yesterday, was there?
No, and we know that the Duke of Edinburgh is an incredibly proud man, and I don't think he would have wanted to have been seen in any other circumstances other than looking very well.
Yes, and he did indeed look very well. So when you say he had his famous wit, he went up to one of the buglers, a lance corporal, who we spoke to, and you'll hear from him in a moment, and decided to have a little chat with him about what he does. And he said he was an assault pioneer, and I had to look this up. Military term. Basically, it's a member of the infantry who goes in. They sort of blow holes in walls in order to allow people in, or they go and build stuff. An assault pioneer, and therefore Prince Philip said to him, have a listen to this tiny bit. You might not be able to hear it, but this is the conversation that he had with this bugler and assault pioneer.
Assault pioneering as well, sir. Brilliant. So we do the best of both. Oh, keep it up, sir.
So if you could hear that, basically, he told him about what he does. He bugles, he assault pioneers, and then he said, oh, we have to keep fit then. And when we had the chat with the Lance Corporal afterwards, he said he kind of wondered whether he was looking him up and down going, not as fit as I thought you might need to be.
Yeah, the Lance Corporal said, didn't he, he had some banter, and it was nice to see him joking around.
Yes, so have a listen to Lance Corporal Stretton, who we spoke to outside after the ceremony. Bit of an honour you had today, because here's a guy who's been your Colonel-in-Chief and for your previous regiments as well for 67 years or something like that. And there you were at the ceremony when he was finally bowing out, as it were.
Yeah, it was an honour, privilege. Means a lot because he hasn't been doing public engagements, so to be on one of his final public engagements and hand over his Colonel-in-Chief and be a part of that is great success.
You had a chat with him, I hear, so what did he have to say?
Well, he had a bit of a laugh and a joke with me asking if I'd been doing my fitness, but he asked what job I do as well as bugling, and I told him that I'm an assault pioneer as well as bugling. So.
And tell me about the fitness then, because we know that he likes his fitness and that's how he's kept himself in good shape all these years. What was he asking you about yours?
When he asked me, he kind of looked up and down at me, and it was quite, yeah, I keep up my fitness, kind of. It's good to see.
Intimidated?
No, you kind of get that banter sense from it, and we enjoy that banter.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah, he's someone who's known for his banter.
Yeah.
And even in his advanced years, his wit is still there. Yeah?
Yeah, and he's keeping it going, which is great news. And it was nice for him to come down and speak to us.
I know you're going to have the Duchess of Cornwall as your new Colonel-in-Chief, so that's a pretty special moment as well. Someone who's potentially a future wife of a future king. So.
Yeah, it's nice, and like I said, to be a part of it today. In my bugling career now, I don't think we'll see another Colonel-in-Chief change. So to be a part of that and a new one coming in, it'll be something different and see what she brings.
So it's still interested in fitness. We know actually Phil Dampier, didn't he, told us a few weeks ago at the time of the Duke of Edinburgh's 99th birthday, he still does his sort of military fitness routine.
Canadian Air Force type exercises, which was a fact that I loved. Yes.
Yes, and it clearly thinks that everyone else in the infantry should be equally as fit.
Well, if you could look like that in 99, I think I might take it up.
Yeah. So he did his thing. What I thought was quite a couple of interesting things. One, they thanked him for the 67 years service that he's given to them. And then at the end, another military term we had to look up, wasn't it? They wished him
farewell and following seas.
Fair winds and following seas.
Farewell and following seas.
I think it's winds. Because I googled it.
Fair winds.
Yeah, fair winds.
Fair winds and following seas.
Fair winds and following seas. And it's a naval term.
We shall miss those who have served with honour and courage.
So it kind of like harking back to the days, obviously, when Prince Philip himself was on board ships and sailing them around, and many people think he might have been the head of the Navy had he not gone and married the Queen, but that's how they saluted him, and he turned round, gave a wave and popped back into the castle.
And off he went, yes, but they're not going to be there for long, are they?
No, we know they're flying to Braemar. Before we get to that, let's go to the other part of this yesterday's story, which was Camilla's involvement. So at Highgrove, 85 miles away, we just said, Camilla did the sort of opposite. She went and received a ceremony in which she became the Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles. So there's a very similar sound outside the front door of Highgrove House. Some buglers were there too. Have a listen. And Camilla's outfit, tell me what you know about Camilla's outfit. It was green to match the tunics. Did you read that briefing note?
I did read that briefing
it's green.
note.
Okay, what do I
And
remember?
you're talking of outfits, the Duke of Edinburgh had his regimental tie on.
Okay, but Camilla's was green, specially made. It had some kind of, she had a brooch, the rifle's brooch.
Yeah.
What else do I remember with this briefing note?
This is painful but great.
Some buttons, weren't they sort of in the shape of rifles or something, or cannons?
We'll move on.
Yeah. Can you remember it, or are you just testing me?
I'm just testing you. It's really fun.
Right, let's move on.
It's not going to be our only fashion segment.
And actually, I thought the pictures, actually, again, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll show you them now. If you're not watching on YouTube, then go and have a look on our social media pages. I thought the pictures of Camilla at Highgrove, she looked radiant in the sunshine.
She
there,
did.
Didn't she? She was only 73, last week or the week before? I forget.
Yeah, and those lovely photos of her that were published last week. But we understand that it was, she regarded yesterday as a very special occasion, and it's a huge honour for her to receive this position from her
She's always
father-in-law.
actually, there's some interesting things about Camilla, which was written in Penny Junor's book about her a few years ago, is the fact that because her father was a military man, she's always had a very close connection with the military and understanding what it means to be in the military and what it means for their families as well. And she's had some associations with different regiments in the Rifles for a while. And when they were in Afghanistan, she was writing to them quite regularly as well. So she, again, it's a role that she takes very seriously.
Yeah, and everyone that we spoke to yesterday is thrilled that she will be taking on the role as Colonel-in-Chief. And I think someone described it as bittersweet. The Duke has been a great Colonel-in-Chief, but they're thrilled to have the Duchess taking on the role going forward.
Now, we don't know where Charles and Camilla are going to be for the summer. They normally go to Birk Hall, which is where they spent a lot of the lockdown on the Balmoral estate. We know the Queen's going there, though.
We do.
With Prince Philip.
With Prince Philip. So,
we don't know when.
Beginning of early August.
Right, and into September as well.
Into September.
Yes.
So they usually go to Balmoral to spend their summers up there.
And go to the Braemar Gathering and do all the Highland Games.
Yeah,
and
so the Braemar Gathering is normally the first weekend of September, and that's where you see, the tug of war, the hammer throwing, the tossing the caber. None of that this year. We'll have none of those pictures, but they will get to spend their summer holidays up at Balmoral, which we know they love.
Yes, and we don't know when they're going or how they're going, but it's dependent on whether or not the government guidelines remain in place and all the rest of it, isn't it? Now, listen, at the beginning of this podcast, I put out a tweet saying, has anyone got any questions? We've had a question from Russell Myers, who is the Mirror's royal correspondent, which is, do you ever think there will be a boy born who can swim faster than a shark? Nothing to do with royal news at all. Right. I think he was basically just being irritating, which doesn't come as a great surprise. If I get any more sensible questions, there's one here about Beatrice's wedding, so we could move on to that next. Was Beatrice and Edo's secret royal wedding, it was hashtagged, because of her dad's situation with Jeffrey Epstein? Well, I think the answer is yes, in part.
In part. So they were due to get married at the end of May, and that was obviously postponed due to COVID. So I think, in part, they wanted to get married, and the way ceremonies are having to happen at the moment are in very small groups.
30 people, 15 per side.
So they had their parents, their grandparents, and their siblings there. It was a very, very close
Okay, so we saw
family.
the pictures, didn't we?
Yep.
And so they released 2 pictures on Saturday. Again, this wasn't to overshadow what we were doing on Friday, what we told you about last week, which was Captain Tom's knighthood. So released 2 pictures on Saturday, another 2 on Sunday, after Edo himself put a few of them online.
Put a few of them, then pulled them down, and then Buckingham Palace.
So we had, by the end of the weekend, in any event, we had 4 official photographs and 1 that sneaked its way onto YouTube, onto Instagram temporarily. But what do we know about the dress?
The dress. I should let you do this. So the dress
was.
I thought
from the Queen
are all really touching details, actually. So her dress was a vintage dress lent to her by the Queen. It was designed by Sir Norman Hartnell.
Yes, and the Queen wore it when?
The Queen wore it in 1962 for the premiere of Lawrence of Arabia, and again in 1966 for the state opening of Parliament.
Very good. Well, I don't know why they keep these dresses all that time. I mean, they've obviously got a big wardrobe somewhere, clearly.
And you'll have noticed there was some
Yes.
additions. So it was remodelled and refitted by
Yes.
Angela Kelly and
I noticed-
Stuart Parvin.
noticed that.
You noticed.
Yeah.
So she had the shoulders
The Queen's
covered.
two favourite designers.
Yes, exactly.
And what does she have on her head?
She had the Queen Mary diamond fringe tiara, which was worn by the Queen on her own wedding day.
In 1947.
Yes, and
Right.
it was lent to the Princess Royal for her wedding, and now to Beatrice.
Her first wedding or second?
Her first.
Ah, yeah. Good. Well
First.
done. Check on that. And the tiara used to belong to Queen Mary of Teck, the wife of King George V.
Yep.
Very good. Well done. You passed.
Passed. So I thought these. I mean, royals don't often have to say a lot, but you can get a lot from just a photograph of sort of symbolism and things. And I thought it said a lot that the Queen had loaned her dress and the tiara. There's obviously...
Yeah, and the chapel as well, because I think they said, didn't they, that she got married there with the permission of the Queen. So there was quite a lot of involvement.
I mean,
because she obviously felt very sorry for her granddaughter, that not only had she had to cancel her wedding because of coronavirus, but also she's had to keep the whole thing very, very muted, shall we say, because of the situation with Prince Andrew, her father.
Yeah, I mean, the support shown by the Queen to Beatrice over her wedding is undeniable. And I thought that photograph that was put out with the couple and the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh looking sort of at them in a really loving way. It was a really sweet photograph. And I thought the whole thing was done in a really dignified, lovely way.
I agree. I think she's won a lot of praise as well, hasn't she, for keeping it very low key. I mean, every wedding kind of has to be at the moment. Her sister, by contrast, had that massive wedding. There was questions about the security bill for the police because of the crowds and everything outside, even though the wedding was funded privately. But the situation has changed quite a lot since October 2018, when Eugenie got married to Jack Brooksbank, and the entire situation with her family has changed. Prince Andrew's no longer a working member of the royal family.
And I guess this was the big omission, wasn't it? That everybody picked up on, that there was no photograph of Prince Andrew with his daughter. We know he walked her down the aisle. It was done at the chapel at Royal Lodge, so he didn't have to leave the grounds, so he wasn't photographed. Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't get a picture of him. But that said, I'm just going to very quickly look up what Sarah Ferguson said about it, because she did write something on Instagram. Here we go. And Sarah Ferguson, so the mother of the bride, said, "Thank you to all the very special and kind people that took the time and trouble to send amazing, caring and supportive messages. Never has a mother been more proud than the wedding of Eugene and Jack, and again with my Beatrice's loving wedding to dear Edo. I'm so lucky with my girls." And now she says she has the best sons-in-law. So
and she actually, both the mothers read poems during the ceremony. There were no hymns sung because no singing at the moment due to coronavirus. And very sweetly, Edo's little boy Wolfie, who is 4, was the best man and page boy. So it was a real sort of family affair.
Nice pictures of that, wouldn't it, really? So, but it wasn't too.
But I think whatever they'd done, if they'd put out a photograph of Andrew, that would have, been written about if they hadn't.
I said wasn't to be, which is a joke which I believe that Eugenie made as well.
Yes.
Here we go. She
couldn't be happier.
Yes, actually, couldn't be happier. Brackets, get it, and then an emoji of a bee. BEA. Couldn't be happier for her sister B. What a complete joy and privilege to watch you, my beautiful big sister, walk down the aisle to dear Edo. I'm so proud of you, and we're going to have so much fun together. So, okay, a happy moment. Let's talk about less happy moments with the York wing of the royal family. No developments on the Ghislaine Maxwell situation. We spoke about that last week. However, President Trump was asked about Ghislaine Maxwell and then went on to say this about Prince Andrew when he gave his press conference earlier this week. I'm not going to comment on it, but read into it what you will.
I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
So President Trump, again, talking about Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, but I'll let you draw your own conclusions as you see fit. Where should we go next? I mean, we haven't spoken about Harry and Meghan yet, and one day a time will come when this podcast will pass without a single mention of Harry and Meghan. That said, they continue to put out quite how do we refer to the statement they put out this week? Robust?
Punchy?
Punchy?
Yep.
Okay, so the background to the story is that there is an anti-monarchy group in the UK called Republic. It's an organisation that campaigns for the UK to be a republic, to have an elected head of state, not to have the constitutional monarchy that we have. They had referred the Royal Foundation, one of the charities, the foundation that's run by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge currently, to the Charity Commission, because the Royal Foundation gave some money to Harry and Meghan's, what was it called then? The
Sussex Royal, and
Royal
also
Foundation.
Travelist, which is the Harry's Sustainable Travel Initiative.
Gave them some money to sort of set it up effectively, a pot of money. The anti-monarchy group Republic says we're not sure that's right and referred it to the Charity Commission in the UK, who are looking into it. The difference in responses from the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were quite something. Yes?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yes.
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge response is 2 lines. The grants were made to Sussex Royal were to support the charitable work of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They were fully in line with the governance requirements and were reported transparently. Full stop, end of quote.
Yes.
Prince Harry's
Was significantly
response
longer.
was significantly longer. 5, 6 paragraphs. 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think his team felt that due to the nature of the accusations, they wanted to provide a further comment.
Yes, and it didn't come from his spokesman. It came from their legal team, Shillings.
Yep.
And I suppose a lot of people have. We can't read the whole thing, but a lot of people have said the response has made more of this story than it necessarily warranted.
Agreed. I think, the Royal Foundation, 2 lines, deals with it, goes away. But by putting out paragraph after paragraph, there is much more that can then be reported and said about this. So it's sort of adding.
Okay, so we run through a few things.
Yes.
He says it is deeply offensive to see false claims made about the Duke of Sussex and his charitable work. It is both defamatory and insulting to all the outstanding organisations and people he partnered with. Do you want to choose another bit?
Oh, yep. I think this paragraph here where they say to suggest otherwise is unequivocally wrong and will be acted upon accordingly with the weight of the law. The avenue through which this was publicly and salaciously created only suggests a hunger for media attention as well as a shared and attacking agenda, which is neither right nor just.
But then, Republic isn't going to put out reports or press releases or things that support the monarchy. Its whole purpose is for the abolishment of the monarchy. I don't know why Harry was so surprised about that in some respects. That's what Republic have been doing for years and years and years.
I think they say that if Republic had followed the Charity Commission's guidance, then a complaint should have been made to the charity first.
Yeah. And they thought, it is the job of pressure groups to create publicity around their cause, to have people talking about what they want, and they've
successfully done that.
Or you could say Harry has successfully done that, couldn't you? Rather than Republic themselves.
Yeah, but Republic have received or will receive a legal letter, will be issued to them in due course.
So we look forward.
We should say though that the Charity Commission also put out a statement, and they said they have not made any determination of wrongdoing.
Right, so they're looking into it, or looking into whether there's anything to.
They said, we have received a complaint on this issue. As with all concerns raised with us, we will assess the information provided to determine whether or not there is a role for the Commission. We have not made any determination of wrongdoing.
Right. And also, Travelist is now no longer a charity; it's a sort of public limited company, isn't it? So, yeah. But maybe that was part of what they'll look into. But at the time, I think when these grants were transferred from what was the Royal Foundation of William, Kate, Harry, Meghan, and then became the Royal Foundation of just William and Kate, and Harry and Meghan then had their Sussex Royal Foundation, which has subsequently been disbanded. Yeah. That's what happened. But there's lots of people wondering whether that response was proportionate.
I have to say, the difference in the Sussexes' responses since they've sort of walked away from their roles as working members of the family have certainly been more robust, haven't they?
Yes, yeah. I mean, actually, here another question on Twitter. Someone says, "Why?" I've got a question. Why do you and others still in capitals go after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex?
I'm not
Are we going after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, or are we accurately reporting what they put into the public domain this week?
We're accurately reporting what their team sent to us in response to Republic. So.
Yeah. There we are. There's answered that question. Another one. When will Prince Andrew cooperate with federal authorities? Well, we don't know. We have reported that they claim they've been in touch with the authorities in the US, but as far as we understand, no communication has yet happened to date. Okay, so let's park charities. There's no other Harry and Meghan news, although we think next Wednesday, there'll be another development in the High Court case between Meghan and the Mail on Sunday over the letter that she wrote to Thomas Markle, but nothing on that so far this week.
No, but we have got some news about the Royal Foundation and COVID, hot off the press. So hot
off the
that
press,
we've literally
so hot.
just...
Actually, the paper's
still warm.
£1.8 million it's going to give, and all to do with coronavirus.
Yeah, so their foundation has granted nearly 1.8 million, as you say, to supporting frontline community and the nation's mental health. So these grants are being given to 10 leading charities at the heart of mental health and frontline support. So charities like Hospice UK,
Place to Be, which is one of Kate's ones, isn't it?
Ambulance Staff Charity, Campaign Against Living Miserably.
And what's the one that William volunteered for? Shout
85258.
Which is that text-based service that William has said recently that he's been one of the volunteers texting back.
Secretly volunteering for
not
them.
that you would have known it had you been in touch.
Nope. No, it's an anonymous service.
So £1.8 million that comes from the Royal Foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
Yep.
Full stop now. And actually, given everything that's been going on, and mental health is a particular challenge, I think, post-COVID or during COVID. We're not really post it, are we? Anywhere at the moment.
And something that they are focusing on. They have been focusing on for many years, but particularly focusing on during COVID, and it looks as though they'll continue that work post-COVID.
So we started this podcast talking about someone who was 99 years old. How about we talk about someone who was 100 years old? Because if you were watching or listening last week, you will know that Captain Tom was knighted by the Queen. The Queen broke her lockdown to come and actually do the whole thing, use the sword from her father to knight him in person. We were there. What we couldn't bring you last week was what Captain Tom said. We think it was such a sweet moment, and he's such an amazing guy, wasn't he? He was so polite, so charming. We just thought it was worth you listening to the chat that I had with Captain Tom in the quadrangle of Windsor Castle. It might be a week old, but we still think it's worth a listen.
I'm absolutely overawed by the fact that this is such a high award that I should get, and from Her Majesty as well. What more can anyone wish for than that? That has been an absolutely magnificent day for me. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but what's better, raising £30 million for charity or having the Queen break her lockdown to personally meet you?
Well, the money is very useful, but we've only one Queen, and we get a message from the Queen that there's no value can be placed on that.
And our congratulations to him. I mean, what a phenomenal chap he is. Actually, have you seen there's some story about there is a 104-year-old woman who's climbing some hill outside her house?
I think incredible, isn't it? Just amazing. They're putting us all to shame.
How many more centenarians are going to be doing this? And,
but it was very special to be there to see that.
It really was, wasn't it? Yeah, actually, one of our colleagues, who shall remain nameless, who was standing next to us, was getting quite
emotional
when it was happening. And he did look quite vulnerable when he was there with his support frame, just waiting for the Queen. He was on his own. He was kind of like stretching his legs a bit, wasn't he?
And the quadrangle is very big, and he was just standing on his own in the middle of it.
Frail and I think everyone really felt for him. But he had an amazing day. And actually, one of the facts, which I actually reported on my Twitter feed last week, was that when the car came to pick him up and take him away for tea, it transpired that the Queen had actually offered to host tea for him, but being the gentleman that he was, he said, "Oh, sorry, I've already got plans," and went to the hotel down the road with his family, and basically said no thanks to the Queen. So there's not many people that say that.
Amazing.
So you want to stay for tea, Captain Tom? No, thank you.
It also explains why that the hotel didn't want my satellite truck clogging up their car park.
Yes, exactly, because that was
makes a lot of sense.
that was the hotel you tried to get in, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And one we know very well because we stayed there during the baby and wedding years.
Wedding years, oh yeah.
It seemed like a very long time ago now. Ever been to Cornwall in the southwest of England? If you're listening or watching this in the USA, perhaps not. It's a beautiful part of the country.
Beautiful part of the country.
It's where the Duchy of Cornwall comes from, which dates back to whatever 1348, which was set up to fund the office of the heir to the throne. And therefore, when the Prince of Wales, when Prince Charles is in Cornwall, he is known as the Duke of Cornwall. When he's in Scotland, he's known as
the Duke of Rothesay.
That's right. I was going to ask you what he is in Northern Ireland, but I can't remember.
I'm not sure I can either,
okay.
actually.
So the Prince of Wales / Prince Charles / Duke of Cornwall was in Cornwall with the Duchess of Cornwall, aka Camilla, this week, and some beautiful pictures from that part of the world. Tintagel Castle were my favourites.
Yeah, that was their first engagement with Tintagel Castle, walking along the new footbridge, and it looked very lovely and sunny down there.
I was thinking about booking a camping trip down there myself,
Yeah,
having seen those amazing pictures, and it's a beautiful part of the country. So they were spending 3 days down there. They actually, Camilla had to cut that slightly short in order to do the service we told you about earlier.
Yeah, they always try and get down there for a week, don't they? They do their Wales week, they have their Cornwall week, they try and every year get around the country. So it was obviously shorter this year and less engagements than normal because of coronavirus, but they did make the effort to go there. And there were also some lovely pictures of the Duchess at Cornwall Air Ambulance Base in Newquay getting in a helicopter.
Called? You know what the helicopter's called?
No.
The Duchess of Cornwall.
I should have just guessed, shouldn't I?
The helicopter is called the Duchess of Cornwall, and it's for Cornwall Air Ambulance, and there's a picture of her inside there, and it was there was some man from the church there, a man of cloth was there, so I presume it was being blessed or something. But anyway, so the helicopter is named after her, and a very good cause, and you'll know that Prince William was once an air ambulance pilot, so it obviously means a lot to the royal family all round. Shall we end on a little boy who's 7?
These were lovely photos, weren't they? So as is usual with the Cambridge children, we got treated to some new photographs to celebrate his 7th birthday.
Taken by
Mum.
Who else? Mum, exactly.
Yep, and I thought these were lovely, and there was a real normality to him. He looked like he could have been any other 7-year-old enjoying his time outside. You know, he was dressed in sort of, normal kids' clothes, and looked like he was just having a lovely time. So they were nice.
One of the newspapers called him the sort of king of camouflage or something, didn't they?
King of camouflage, yep.
Yes, because he's going to have an association with the military one day as the future king.
My favourite headline
If, of course, I should have put this out, he's future king if, of course, we still have a monarchy, because every time I say that, the campaign group Republic always say, well, this is presuming that we'll still have a monarchy when George is of age, but I should point that out.
My favourite headline, though, I think it was the Sun that said "Gappy birthday" because he's got these lovely big gaps in his teeth. Yeah, sweet.
So he did look great, and happy birthday to him from us. Can we tell you about anything happening next week?
Well, we've thrown ahead to the Meghan court case.
Yep.
But that is all.
I mean, that's not to say there's nothing going on next week. It's just to say that we don't yet know about it.
Or can't tell you about it.
Or can't tell you, or we're sworn to secrecy, or whatever else. So there will be more royal news next week. We will do a podcast. At some point, we're going to have to break for the summer
We are.
holidays.
I think actually next week's our last week.
Could well be the last one.
We're off for a bit.
Your ears or your eyes can have a rest for a few weeks while we take a break. Thank you for watching. Continue to subscribe. We're on social media, on Twitter @ChrisShipITV.
@Lizzie ITV.
And on Instagram @ITV News Royals, which has just ticked up to nearly 56,000 this week. So thank you for everyone who has continued to follow. We appreciate it, and we will see you or hear from you or whatever, listen to you next week. Bye-bye.